Guru Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna Mataji, sorry to interrupt. Could we have the verses on the screen, please, Prabhuji?
Yeah, 1 second. Give me a second.
Thank you. Canto 1, Chapter 7, verses from text 20 to 38. Please accept my humble obeisances. Text 20. Atho pashprishra shalinam sandhatat samahita anjanam api samharam prana kritya upashite.
Who's doing the English? Naina Mataji?
Okay. Hare Krishna. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes, go on, please.
Okay. Since his life was in danger, he touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns for throwing nuclear weapons, although he did not know how to withdraw such weapons.
Text 21. Tatha pradushkratam teja prachandam sharvato disham prapannadam abhiprekshaya Vishnu Jishnu uvachaha.
Thereupon, a glaring light spread in all directions. It was so fierce that Arjun thought his own life was in danger. So he began to address to Lord Sri Krishna.
Text 22. Arjuna Vacha Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvam Eko Dehi Mananam Apavarga Shri Samsita.
Arjun said, "O my Lord Sri Krishna, you are the almighty personality of Godhead. There is no limit to your different energies. Therefore, only you are competent to install fearlessness in your hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find the path of liberation in you only."
Text 23. Tvam Ada Purusha Shaktash Ishvara Praktipara Mayam Vayudasha Chichakra Kaivalla Sthiti Atmani.
You are the original personality of Godhead who expands himself all over the creations and is transcendental to material energy. You have cast away the effects of the material energy by the dint of your spiritual potencies. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge.
Text 24. Saeva Jivalokasha Maya Mohita Chetasha Vidashte Shena Briyena Shreyo Dharmadilakshanam.
And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls.
Text 25. Tathayam cha prastraste bhuva bharajihishaya swanam channaya bhavayam anudhattaya cha ashakrit. Sorry.
Thus, you descend as an incarnation to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are constantly wrapped in meditation upon you.
Text 26. Kim idam svit kuto veti deva deva nivetma aham sarvato mukhamai ayati teja param duranam.
Oh, Lord of Lords, how is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I do not understand it.
Text 27. Sri Bhagavanu Vachu Vedyadam Drona Putrasya Brahmam Astram Pradashitam Naivashu Veda Samharam Parapada Upashite.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Know from me that this is the act of the son of Drona. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy, Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death."
Text 28. Nahi ashyanyatam kinchit astam pratavakarshanam jai astra teja unatam astragno hi astra tejasha.
O Arjun, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. Since you are expert in the military science, subdue this weapon's glare with the power of your own weapon.
Text 29. Sutta uvacha shrutva bhagavata proktam Falguna paraviraha spraspatam parikramaya brahmam brahmastram shandhate de.
Sri Sut Goswami said, hearing this from the personality of Godhead, Arjun touched water for purification, and then after circumambulating Lord Krishna, he cast his Brahmastra weapon to counteract the other one.
30. Samhyatam yuyupam bhashur tejoshi sharasambrite abrita rodashi kamcha Bhardate Krita Bha Nivet.
When the rays of the two Brahmastras combined, a great circle of fire, like the disk of the sun, covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets.
Text 31. Drishtrastra Tejastu Tayos Trilokang Pradaham Mahat Diyat Di Amana Praja Sharva Sambhatta Kam Amshata.
All the population of the three worlds was scorched by the combined heat of the weapons. Everyone was reminded of the Samvartka fire which takes place at the time of annihilation.
632. Prajo Pram Alakasha Loka Vaiti Karam Chamtam Matam Cha Vasudevasha Sanjayarjuna Sanjayarjuna Devayam.
Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjun at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons as Lord Krishna desired.
633. Tata Ashadata Rasha Darunam Gautami Shutam Babandhamarsha Tamskara Pashunam Rashana Yatha.
Arjun, his eyes blazing in anger like two red bowls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami and bound him with ropes like an animal.
634. Shivira Ninishan Shantam Rajavava Badva Rupam Balat Prahari Junam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujakshaya.
After binding Ashwatthama, Arjun wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of Goddess Sri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood.
Text 35. Mainam prarthashtashita charitratum brahma bandhum imam jai yosha anakshad shuktam avadim nishibalakam.
Lord Krishna said, "O Arjun, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahman, Brahma Bandhu, for he killed innocent boys in their sleep."
36. Matam pramptanam anmatam suktam balam shriyam jadam prapannam viratam vitam nari prumhanti dharmavid.
A person who knows the principle of religion does not kill an enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid, or devoid of his chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul.
Text 37. Swapranam iya para prana prapushnati agharna kala tadvadastashahi shreyo yadoshayati adhapuman.
A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of other lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he'll go down by his own actions.
638. Pratisrutam cha bhavata panchaleshino va mama aharisha shirastasha yaste manini putraha.
Furthermore, I have personally heard you promise Draupadi that you'd bring forth the head of the killer of her sons.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Please forgive all the mistakes I made. I know a lot of mistakes was made. I really do apologize. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you
Hare
for
Krishna.
insight. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you're on mute.
Thank you, Kirtiben. Yes, sorry, I just said to myself that thank you so much, Palika Mataji, for reciting the Sanskrit. It was some difficult words, so not your fault, it was tough. And Naina Ben, thank you so much for the nice English recitation. Let me just share my PowerPoint so we can start today's section. 1 second. Something went blank. Hold on a second. Okay, so we are continuing reading from the first canto, 7th chapter. Today, the 7th chapter is entitled "The Son of Drona Punished." So, as usual, we'll just do a review of the chapter. Quite a long chapter, this one, so it's a good idea to just see where we are. The verses 1 to 7 in this chapter, Vyasdev's vision and glories of Bhagavatam. And then 8 to 11, Vyasdev is teaching Bhagavatam to Shukdev Goswami. And then actually after the verse 12, Shukdev Goswami begins to speak about the history, and begins with the lamentation. It begins with the killing of the sons of Pandavas, and basically trying to bring it to the situation where Parikshit is born. So this is the beginning of his narrations happening. And this current section we're on is Arjun captures Ashwatthama. So very nice part of the Bhagavatam. This really gives us the basis of how Parikshit Maharaj came about, and the history, and it gives us the basis to learn as we go forward. So before we proceed, just do a short Mangalacharan, invocation Mangalacharan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam. The next one. Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtitu Krishne Swadam Upagate Dharma Jnana Divishaha Krishne Swadam Upagate Dharma Jnana Divishaha Kala Unnasta Rishamesha Purana Kodunodita Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swamini Tinamine Snigdha Cheta Supraneta Vagmi Nam Charasapitanta Bhupadika Tatana Nami Bhakti Charu Padu Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishasya Nidhati Pasha Padeshakari Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today's verse is 33. We'll just recite again. Tata asadyatarasa darunam gautami sutam babandam arshatamata tam raksha pashum rashanaya yatha. Translation. Arjun, his eyes blazing in anger like two red bowls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami and bound him with the ropes like an animal. So we have a short purport. So somebody can just unmute and recite the purport, please. Anybody?
Can I read Prabhuji?
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, go on, Mitali Ben.
No, I think Sadha Mataji want to read. I don't mind.
Okay.
Anyway, you go on. Go on.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ashwatthama's mother Kripi was born in the family of Gautama. The significant point in this sloka is that Ashwatthama was caught and bound up with ropes like an animal. According to Sridhara Swami, Arjuna was obliged to catch the son of a Brahmana like an animal as a part of his duty, dharma. This suggestion by Sridhara Swami is also confirmed in the later statement of Sri Krishna. Ashwatthama was bona fide son of Dronacharya and Kripi, but because he had degraded himself to a lower status of life, it was proper to treat him as an animal and not as Brahmana. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mitali Mataji. Thank you. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pacharina Vishwasasundari Pashate Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So before we go to the purport, we just want to pick on this. So here it says Darunam Gautami Sutam. And we are speaking about here Ashwatthama. So, Gautami Sutam. Gautami Sutam means son of Gautami. So what was Ashwatthama's father's name? Anybody?
Dronacharya.
Dronacharya, exactly. What was Dronacharya's wife's name?
Gautami.
Kripi.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, we know actually, generally speaking, we hear that it is Kripi. But here it is mentioned Gautami. So Kripi is also known as Gautami. Why? Because she comes in the family of Gautama, sage Gautama Rishi. So the story of this, so before, like I said, before we get into the purport, we just want to explain how Kripi is like in the lineage of Gautama Rishi. So it begins, the story begins with Gautama Maharishi. So Gautama Rishi had a grandson. His grandson's name was Sharadvan. Sharadvan was his grandson. And then his Sharadvan, he was born, apparently he was born with a bow and arrow. So although he was born in a Brahmana family, Brahmanas are generally peaceful and non-violent, etc., etc. But you could see from the sign of the fact that he was born with a bow and arrow, he was meant to be an archer. And he did prove right. He actually, as he grew up, he became a very, very powerful archer. He became so powerful that he threatened Indra. Indra felt threatened. And this is a recurring theme, as we know. Whenever Indra feels threatened by somebody's tapasya, he would start taking action. So as he had done before, with many sages who meditate, he would send an apsara down to disturb him. Similarly, so in this case also, he sends down a beautiful apsara called Janapadi. Janapadi is sent down to try and disrupt and because when somebody has become such a pure whichever act, whether it's archery or whether it is any other skill, one has to be 100% focused. Even athletes, for example, right? We know the athletes, when they reach their pinnacle, they do not distract themselves in any way. They are completely focused in just that practicing their skills. So to distract him, the Apsara Janapati was sent. And it is said that Sharadvan, just for a moment, he got sort of bewildered by the beauty of his Apsara. And because of that, he dropped some semen. But he caught himself until he walked back into the forest to try and repent. But in the meantime, that semen that dropped on the ground apparently dropped on a blade of grass and was split into two. And from these two parts of the semen, two babies came about. One was a male, one was a female. And then, as most of us would know, the king of Hastinapur, Shantanu, when he was walking around, when he was on a tour, he found these two children by the wayside. So he picked them up, and because he showed mercy on them, Kripa, so he called them Kripa and Kripi. And he brought them back to his palace, and this is where they grew up. And it is said apparently Shardavan came to know about this. He came, introduced himself, and then he actually trained Dronacharya in terms of, he trained Kripacharya in the art of fighting, using weapons, archery, etc., etc. He also taught him Vedas and Shastras and everything. So this is the history of how the word Gautami is used for Kripi here. Now going, also another part of the purport says, sorry, of the text, it says, Arjuna, his eyes blazing in anger like two red balls of copper. So anger, as we know, anger is one of the anarthas, right? Anartha is things in our heart which are detrimental to our general well-being, as well as detrimental to our devotional service, isn't it? So anarthas. So generally speaking, we hear about 6 anarthas. Can anybody name them? English first.
Lust, anger, greed,
Lust. Okay, so let's say
illusion.
lust. What's the Sanskrit for lust?
I don't know, Prabhuji. Sorry.
Kama.
Kama, exactly. Lust is kama. Then we mentioned anger. This is what we're speaking about today. So anger. And
Anger
what's
is krodha.
krodha?
Krodha.
Exactly. What's the third one then?
Greed,
That's anger, greed. Exactly. Greed. And what is greed?
Lova.
lobha,
Excellent. And after greed,
illusion,
illusion. Yes, illusion. And that is
Moha.
oh, exactly. Wonderful. And then after illusion, mother. Yes, is Sanskrit. Yes. But what's the English? Pride. Pride, which is mother.
pride,
And the last one, Matsarya, which is envy. Yeah,
envy.
so these are the 6. So we are generally taught that we should be fighting to remove these anarthas, right? This is what the whole Shastra speaks about this. These are our enemies, and we need to take action to make sure that we get rid of these anarthas. Otherwise, our spiritual life suffers, isn't it? So, and of course, Shastra says what's the best way to get rid of these anarthas? Just everything is cut away simply by the science of chanting the holy names of the Lord. So if we chant the names of the Lord sincerely, gradually these anarthas will get reduced and eventually eradicated. But the point being that so okay, let's think about, first of all, before we go back to Arjun here, what is the cause of anger? So this passage in the 2nd canto of Bhagavad Gita explains about how anger comes about. Anybody know these verses? There's 2 verses that speak about that.
Krodhat bhavati sammoha.
Yes. Exactly.
Buddhinaso buddhinashat pranashyati.
Okay, so everything begins before that, though. The cycle starts before, right? In the previous verse. You know the previous verse, Mataji?
Not sure, Prabhu.
Okay, so previous verse says, Jayate Vishayan Pumsam, Sangasteshu Bajayate, Sangat Sanjayate Kama, Kama Krodho Vijayate. So this is where it's beginning, right? While contemplating the object of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger arises. So it is explained that when lust arises, and lust in this sense is the broader meaning of lust. It's not just bodily attraction. It is lust, just generally greed to enjoy material life. So that's lust. So when some of our wishes are not satisfied, then anger arises. And then, as Mataji explained, the aftermath of that anger arising is explained in the next verse, which says, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti vidbrama, smriti brahmsad buddhi nashat pranashyati. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So there's whichever level of advancement we may have reached, we fall back because of this cycle of disaster. So we need to stop. It says, shows you that everything begins in the mind. So contemplation, if you stop, we have to start controlling. So even just control the mind when our mind starts to go astray, start thinking about things which are not beneficial for our spiritual life. We just nip them at the bud so it doesn't continue this cycle all the way down to falling down. So here's the question. Was Arjuna's anger justified? Here, it will be short here. Anger, and Arjuna was completely angry. The eyes like balls of burning copper. So was it justified?
Yes.
Okay, yes, it definitely is justified, right?
Yes.
And there's a few reasons here, but there's a nice purport earlier in this chapter, in text 16, and the purport explains this. And he says that an enemy who sets fire to the house, administers poison, attacks all of a sudden with deadly weapons, which is the current case in case of Ashwatthama, plunders wealth, or usurps agricultural fields, or entices one's wife, is called an aggressor. Such an aggressor, though he be a Brahmana or a so-called son of Brahmana, has to be punished in all circumstances. When Arjuna promised to behead the aggressor named Ashwatthama, he knew well that Ashwatthama was a son of a Brahmana. But because the so-called Brahmana acted like a butcher, he was taken as such. And there was no question of sin in killing such a Brahmana's son, who proved to be a villain, right? So these are the six of these kind of aparadhis. So if you look at these, are literally talk about history of the anartha, the history of the atrocities that happened on the Pandavas. So if you think about it, administers poison. So as we know, Bhima was poisoned by Duryodhana. And then attacked suddenly with weapons. This is Ashwatthama. Plunders wealth. So the Kauravas wanted to take away the land and wealth. So the land as well. Entices one's wife. So they were again in the gambling match. They were mistreating the Draupadi like that. So these are all things that the Pandavas had done, the Kauravas had done rather. And this is why, in this case, Ashwatthama was definitely punishable. So, moving on, in Prabhupada says that according to Sridhar Swami, Arjuna was obliged to catch this son of Brahmana like an animal as a part of his duty. So, Kshatriya, right? Arjuna is Kshatriya. Kshatriya, so Kshatriya's duty. Kshatriya is divided into the word Kshatriya, made up of Kshat, which means injury, and Trayate, to deliver. So Kshatriya's duty is to save or deliver the citizens from being injured by others. So Kshatriya's duty of Kshatriya mentioned, okay, I've got a wrong verse here actually, but this is the duties of the Brahmana somehow I've got here. But the Kshatriyas is the next verse, which is 1844, which talks about a Kshatriya. Kshatriya is so how does it go? Choryam tejo dhriti dakshyam yude chapya palayanam danam ishvara bhavasya kshatram dharma swabhavajam. So that verse says, Choryam, which is a Kshatriya, is a hero, is a heroism. Choryam, Tejo. Tejo means powerful. Choryam, Tejo. Dhriti means determined. Choryam, Tejo, Dhriti. Dakshyam means Dakshyam. What does it mean? Dakshyam has a meaning. Resourceful. Very resourceful. So Satyas are very resourceful people. Then Yude Chapyapalayana, which means they do not step back in terms of when in war. Dhanam, they're very generous. Dhanam, Ishvara Bhavam, and they're leaders by nature. So these are the kind of the traits of a Kshatriya. So being a Kshatriya, he has to be powerful, and he has to take revenge and protect. So when somebody is attacking like this with deadly weapons, it was a duty of Arjuna to, but it was his dharma to protect and punish the aggressor. And Krishna, in a couple of verses, Krishna will confirm this as well. Krishna, it was also Krishna's will, not just Arjuna's duty, it was Krishna's will as well. So apart from saying this verse over, this is the wrong verse, but it says, Lord Krishna says, "Oh Arjuna, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of Brahmana or Brahma Bandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep." So this phrase Brahma Bandhu is important. So when a son of a Brahmana is a Brahma or also a Brahmana, but when he does not follow the Brahminical codes, then he's called Brahma Bandhu. So he's just a Brahman in name. He's not really following. So Ashwadama in that case was Brahma Bandhu, because as a Brahmana, and we will look at the Brahmanas here. Actually, the number was not correct. Wait, I just wait as the phrase. The verse was correct. The number is wrong. Brahmana was supposed to be peaceful. So here, just on the first hurdle, he falls down because Ashwadama was anything but peaceful. So now, utilizing anger in Krishna's service. Prabhupada many times mentions that it is, one should, anger, although it's an anartha, but if we utilize it, it's not something that we can completely subside. But as devotees, we can utilize anger in the service of the Lord, one way or the other. And then I picked up some of the parts of purpose where Prabhupada speaks about this. So maybe somebody can just read this part of the purport of 4.4.10. Anybody can unmute and read?
Can I read?
Yes, Palika Mataji, go ahead.
Thank you very much. One who developed love for Vishnu must develop love and respect for Vishnu's devotees. Lord Shiva is considered the foremost personality amongst the Vaishnavas. Vaishnavanam Yathasambhu. Thus, when Sati saw that her father was performing great sacrifices but had no respect for the greatest devotee, Lord Shiva, she was very angry. This is befitting. When Vishnu or a Vaishnava is insulted, one should be angry. One should not be tolerant when a person is offensive towards Vishnu or a Vaishnava. The anger of Sati towards her father was not objectionable, for although he was her father, he was trying to insult the greatest Vaishnava. Thus, Sati's anger against her father was quite applaudable.
Thank you, Palika Mataji. So you see, there you go. So anger, we can utilize anger when somebody is blaspheming the Lord or the Lord's devotees. One more example where I think somebody else can unmute and read this.
I can read, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna. A devotee of the Lord cannot tolerate blaspheming of the Lord or his other devotees, and the Lord also cannot tolerate blasphemy of a devotee. Thus, Lord Nrsimhadev was so very angry that the great demigod like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and even the goddess of fortune, who is Lord's constant companion, could not pacify him. Even after offering prayers of glorification and praise, no one was able to pacify the Lord in his anger. But because the Lord was willing to exhibit his affection for Prahlad Maharaj, all the demigods and other present before the Lord pushed Prahlad Maharaj forward to pacify him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sundari Mataji. So here the example of the Lord becoming angry because this devotee was mistreated. And then one more, this from a lecture in London in 1969. Somebody else can unmute and read, please.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we should be very much angry when there is anything against God and God's devotee. But generally, for my personal interest, I should not be angry. All right, if you like to call me by ill names, I don't mind. You go on with your business. I do not become angry. So just like Hanumanji, Vajrangaji, Vajrangaji, he set fire in the kingdom of Ravana, a very beautiful kingdom, almost made of gold. But he set fire in that capital of Lanka. He became very angry. But why he became angry? Not for his personal interest, but he was angry for the interest of Lord Ram, Sita and Lakshmi, wife of Lord Rama, was kidnapped by this man Ravana, and he was very angry that he has kidnapped my Lord's spiritual energy. My Lord's spiritual energy, Sita. I shall set fire in his very valuable capital. So this anger, this demonstration of anger and setting fire was accepted as service. So we should know when to be angry, not that for our personal interest we shall be. Generally, those who are devotees, they are not angry.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Dr.
you,
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada makes a very nice point here that yes, anger, not for our sake, just because somebody is insulting us, we should get angry. So that is not right. That is the anartha. So when, like Hanuman uses anger because he was angry for the Lord, not for himself. So like that. So very important for us to make that distinction and not get carried away. We have to make sure that we don't have an ego. We will get angry because of our ego when somebody sort of dents our ego, but we should keep that aside. But anger is justified. Generally speaking, actually, for devotees, anger is very rarely justified. But here, in Prabhupada explains all these things. But I would say, to be honest, at our level, when we are junior devotees, one should just always try and tolerate and not really get angry, because in the long term, it doesn't really make sense. It make favorable situation. It just creates a lot of hassle around us. So anger should be controlled. Prabhupada is showing examples here from Shastra and from his own advice about how anger can be used. But I would say that having read all this, generally we should all, no matter what the situation is, we should try and control our anger. Senior devotees, maybe they can, display anger in service to try and have certain decorum, but for us, perhaps it's best to always be on the side of peacefulness. Then, and the purport continues. Aswadharma was the son of Karya and Kripi, but because he had degraded himself to the lower state of the life, it was proper to treat him as an animal and not as a Brahmana. So here, the qualities of a Brahmana are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So just because somebody is born in a Brahmana family, as we said earlier, it doesn't make him a Brahmana. He needs to have the appropriate qualities, and not just the qualities, but the activities should be such as well, right? So one should be, so in 1842 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the qualities of Brahmana. Does anybody know this verse? Shamo Damastapa Shausham, Kshanti Arjavam Evacha, Jnanam Vijnanam Astipam, Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. So these are the qualities of a Brahmana, as I was saying earlier. Peacefulness. So as I said, if a Brahmana is not peaceful, then straight away he falls down. And Ashwatthama showed by not being peaceful. Self-control, austerity, purity, these are the qualities of the Brahmana. Tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, religiousness. These are the natural qualities, Krishna says, that the Brahmanas work with. So one has to have the right qualities. And in the Skanda Purana, actually, it is said that Janmana Jayate Shudra. So basically it is said that all of us, everyone is born a Shudra. Janmana Jayate Shudra. Sanskara dvija uchyate. So just with sanskaras, the different sanskaras that we have as we grow up, like a brahmanas, we have so many sanskaras as you grow up. By the sanskaras, one become dvija. Dvija refers to like an advanced devotee. And then Veda Pathe Bhavet Vipra. So next stage is to become a Vipra. And Vipra is somebody who actually knows Shastra. Veda Pathe Bhavet Vipra. And then Brahma Janati Brahman. So one who knows Brahma. Brahma means one who knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is called Brahman. So until then, he is still not qualified. So this is from the Skanda Purana. So this is all I had on the verse today. But today, what I wanted to also speak about was Gopashtami. Today happens to be a very, very auspicious day of Gopashtami. So this is a particular clip. I was reminded by this because somebody just forwarded this clip to me from Bhaktivinoda Samhita Maharaj. And it says, today is a very blissful and auspicious day of Gopashtami. Krishna had previously been tending the cows. And from this day on, he was given charge of looking after the cows. So a big celebration was held in Vrindavan by Nanda Maharaj. It is a festival where Krishna's love for the cows was celebrated. So see, in Vrindavan, up to a certain age, they just sent out with the cows because they're easy to manage. But then as they get stronger and bigger, and they're given the charge to take the cows out so they can manage them. So today was the first time that Krishna and his friends went out with the cows. On this day also, it is another special thing happened, is that Srimati Radharani wanted to also go out and watch the fun when all the boys are going out, grazing the cows. But her mother-in-law, I think Jatila, and sister-in-law Kutila, they were very strict on her, and they didn't want her to go out because they just didn't trust her. So Krishna was waiting, and she really wanted to see Radharani that day, but she wasn't appearing. So Krishna then was very upset, and then apparently Shubal, one of his friends, Subal, his complexion was like Radharani, and his features were a little bit also like Radharani. So Subal apparently went into, and he was somehow related to that family, so he didn't have any difficulty. He went into Radharani's house and into her room. And what they did was they exchanged clothes. So Radharani put on Subal's clothes, and Subal put on Radharani's clothes, and then Radharani left the house. So apparently what they did also, there was Subal brought a calf in with him. So quick thinking, right? Because when Radharani walks out of the house, by the shape of her body, the mother-in-law may, even though she was in Subal's dress, Subal's clothes, her mother and sister-in-law may recognize her like that. So to hide the shape of the upper body, he gave this calf to Radharani to hold. So she was holding this calf against her chest, and she walked out. And they actually called Shubal and said something, and Radharani was able to reply back in Shubal's voice to say something, and that way she was able to get out and meet Krishna. This was a very sweet pastime that happened on this day. So devotees, I will stop here and I will invite any questions or comments, realizations, corrections. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mukunda Hari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Vani Mataji.
Prabhuji, I have heard this story before as well. So little addition in there.
Go on, please.
As Krishna was, missing Radharani, and then he sent Subal, but then he let loose the calf in Radharani's courtyard.
Okay.
So then mother-in-law, then they don't what you call suspect. So then he said, what are you doing in my garden? He said, look, I have my calf, I lost my calf and I'm looking for it. And by looking the calf, he just reaches to Radharani's room, and the way they exchanges.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very, very detailed, Krishnavani
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Very sweet. And actually, this is why you see some in some temples. Actually, in the manner some years ago, we used to do that, but nowadays they don't. But on this day, because of that situation,
Yeah.
because of this particular pastime, for the rest of the year, you never see Radharani's feet ever, and on the altar. But on this day, some temples, even in I think some temple in India, they will raise Radharani's skirt just enough so you can see her feet. And I don't know if you remember Krishnavani Mataji, we used to do that also a few years ago in the manor.
Yeah, especially on Radhastami Day. And for this, actually in the other temples, they dress Radharani.
They
as
dress
Gopa.
Radharani as Gopa, correct. Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
and then that way you can see her,
See the feet.
have the darshan of the feet as well. So
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
sometimes here they do, but not all every time they dress
Yeah.
it.
That's fine.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Anybody else? Any comments?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mukunda, Hare Prabhu. Thank you
Krishna,
for
Hare
coming after a long time. Nice to have you back in the chat. And I understand. I heard this story from one of the devotee that Radharani was, because it's, I mean, the way he was explaining that they had to come very early somehow, because Radharani wanted to come. They came very early and they didn't bring anything. They used to make, Mother Jashoda used to make lunch. They didn't have anything that day. And something in that line, something happened, and Radharani was completely, because she was all wrapped up on the head. I mean, the Gopas also didn't know that it was Radharani, and but she got very hungry. So Krishna was feeding her from the, she made some kind of a face mask. So he was feeding her from the top so that she can, because she was also hungry. So this kind of know how it is connected. But I heard this story from a very senior devotee. He was telling us this,
Okay.
especially this Radharashtam.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's the little angle of the pastime. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I think if everybody's satisfied. Nice to see you all back. Nice to see all the familiar names again, and hope to see you soon again.
Very much,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for
Hare Krishna,
Yeah, Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
for
Thank you for the
wonderful
good
class.
class.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj,
Krishna.
Thank
thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Govinda.
Krishna,
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Prabhu.
Dandavad pranam.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Ben. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
Krishna.
Krishna.